everybody. So, as you know, it is Saturday Talks. Welcome back. Um, if this is your first time watching it, welcome. This is where we talk about language and culture from basically clearing up misconceptions. We talk about languages. We talk about just everything in between that affects people and people no matter where they're located. So I wanted to keep this briefer than last week because I know that the introduction, I do have a couple of things I did want to talk about, but I really want to get straight into the interview because that's like the bulk of really what I want you guys to really see. As you know, French is my second language. Well, it's my second first language because I've been speaking it so long it feels like a first language sometimes. But I want you to know, I know I talked about it in January about French culture in the sense of, like of the speakers, because a lot of times people have the stereotype that it's like, as a Black person who speaks French, it's like, oh, are you Haitian? And I don't know why that's the first automatic guess, but I really address the diversity within the people that are, the French speaking people. So I did really cover that, and I really want to get into it with Flo because she's a friend of mine for the past couple of years. She and I met because she was in LA, and I met her through Bumble BFF. So I actually have that on our website as under the resources tab, and there's a section that says make friends. I also will have that linked below if you want to check that out. But I basically listed all the apps and all of my ways that I've been able to get connected to people internationally. And so we hung out a few times, and she explained to me that she is currently at the time, she told me that she was from Clermont-Ferrand, which is like more central part of France. So it's not really Paris at all, at all, nowhere near it. But I was like, that's really interesting because, a lot of times when you think of from an American point of view, whenever I talk about France, people are always automatically thinking Paris, which it's the capital. And, obviously I've been there and it's a great city. However, that does not define the culture of the entire country. So I really want you to see and really hear her perspective on that, and to clear up any misconceptions or any thoughts you might have had about French culture in the past. And then also, it is also the month of March. So as of now, we are celebrating women with International Women's Day coming up. And, it's just the month to celebrate women. I believe that we do a lot of amazing things. When you look at it, there's a book that I was reading at one point. It's called The Art of Seduction. It's not about seduction in terms of the context you might be thinking, but it talks about basically how to basically get people to do things that you want them to do, seduction as in terms of persuasion. And one of the things that Robert Greene mentions in the beginning of the book is that for women, we didn't really have weapons and all these things, when it comes to history and you look at, all these wars and things like that, those were typically more male dominated events that occurred. Whereas with women, we didn't really have weapons. We weren't really, there's Joan of, we have Joan of Arc, but, it wasn't really a big thing, for women to be in battle, to be in, these, heated arguments or things like that. So women, we didn't really have that. So all we had really was our bodies and our minds as a way of creating persuasion to get what we wanted or to stay safe or in certain cases. So it's really, to be honest with you, it's really, I think in the sense, I think that's much more powerful than being oh, I'm the strongest person and I can kill 10 people in my bare hands in battle or something like that. The thing is that we're able to get what we want because the thing is, all we have is seduction. That's the only thing that we have in order to get what we want. Versus with masculinity, it's typically been where everything's done by force. So we are very powerful, and we're very, I would say women, we're very intelligent. We go through a lot, when you look at throughout history, from, being this whole sort of passive figure to, being a, housewife to, now we're actually being, in many ways, we're being very much accepted into society. So I wouldn't say that sexism doesn't exist nowadays. It's just that there's less of it. There's more opportunities for us. And I think that, celebrating women is very important. And I think that you know, as a woman, you know, is that it's very important to celebrate other women. Doesn't matter what, you know, whether they're, you know, gay or straight, trans, or whatnot, or what their background is that we celebrate women, you know, and we have, I mean, to be honest with you, I think that we've gone through a lot and we have more to go. And, you know, again, it's not about, and I love, one of the things I love about the like female community is that we're all about uplifting each other. We have to, because I mean, when we're uplifting each other and encouraging each other, we're able to do such amazing things. And I think that is, I mean, I'm very grateful for that. So, you know, I'm very grateful that I'm born a woman, you know, and, you know, I appreciate that. And also, as a woman, you know, hopefully communicating to other women, as I hope to encourage you to pursue any opportunities that you feel like you want to pursue, in life, or in general, is whatever you want to do with your life, who you choose to spend your life with, you know, with who you choose to surround yourself with. So I celebrate women. As a woman, I'm celebrating other women. So, and then speaking of such, I have a special announcement. I usually would love to honor, during this season, a woman who I believe is, you know, doing great things. I mean, there's just certain, I mean, not to say that there's certain criteria, to be, nominated for this particular award that I always give out. But I do like to honor other women. So, I want to basically give a shout out to the 2021 Phenomenal Woman. And it is none other than Caitlin Benson. And for those of you who do know Caitlin Benson, you know, she's just an amazing person. And I remember meeting her. She was the director of student activities at the time that I met her, at FIDM, Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, which is my alma mater. And I remember her being basically like the heart and soul of student activities. It was a fun place to be. I think she is basically, I owe her my sanity, because okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a crazy person and I have issues, and everyone knows that. but you know, I mean, the fact is that this is the person who, when I was hysterical about certain things that I was stressed out about, and you know, saying like, "Hey, come in my office, let's talk about it," or when I was eating baby food because I was trying to save up to, I was saving up for my study abroad trip to Paris, and she was just like, "No, I will give you some real food." She literally gave me groceries when I was waiting on a paycheck. And basically, like, she's a real friend. And I think that anybody who has someone like Caitlin in their lives, who's always looking out for you and encouraging you, you should never take that friend for granted. So, Caitlin Benson, you are now this year's Phenomenal Woman, and I want to honor you because, again, you're like one of the most amazing people that there is. So, yeah, the fact is that the fact that you're still my friend, even though you know who I am, is just really just phenomenal to me. So, but yeah, so I want to honor that. I wanted to take that moment to honor her. And at this point, I want to get straight into the interview because, again, our guest is really is a special person to me. She's a friend of mine, and I feel like it's really worthy to hear what she has to say. So I want to address the fact that a lot of people have been asking me about French culture since I do speak French. So I felt like what better to learn about French culture than from an actual French person. So I have my friend Flo. How are you?
Hi. I'm good, and you?
I'm doing pretty good. So I did want to ask you some questions about where you're from. So can you tell us where you're from? Because I know that you are not particularly Parisian.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Orléans, which is next to Paris, like it's 1 hour by car from Paris. Right now I'm in Clermont-Ferrand, so it's in the middle of France, like 4 hours from Paris. Yes, from Paris, sorry. But I also grew up in a French island in the Indian Ocean, so I have many places that I belong to, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in terms of culture, like what does that particularly look like for you? I mean, since you seem to have been in different parts of France, because a lot of people that I talk to, when they think of France, they think of Paris, and obviously it's the whole country.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where I grew up, in the French island where I grew up in the Indian Ocean, the culture is like totally different. Like there's people from all over the world, so we all speak French, obviously, but it's very different than Paris because there is a world culture, like there is an African culture and a Chinese culture, Indian, like it's very different. Like we eat like different food. We eat mainly like rice. Every meal it's rice. And yeah, we listen to very different kind of music, and people are, I would say that compared to Paris, people are more like joyful, and we talk more to many people. But in Paris, like you don't really talk to a lot of people. Like, I mean, when you meet people in the street, you don't talk to people that you don't know, you know. Mm-hmm. So for this island, this is different. Where I'm sorry, my English.
Okay.
I haven't speak English to an American person for a long time, so it's hard sometimes. Okay. So whatever. So where I'm now, it's not as different from Paris. Like it's kind of the same. I would say the only difference is that people are maybe less stressed. Since Paris, it's a very like, there's so many people it's a big city, but so many people every time when you take the subway and stuff, like people are always busy, and so people are more stressed, I would say. But where I'm right now, people are like just normal, I would say.
Okay, that makes sense. So in terms of, what you just said, I mean, are there pretty much like stereotypes that you feel like just aren't true about French culture? Because there's a certain, like I was saying, there's a certain stigma. So do you ever encounter people that say, oh, you're French, so do you do X, Y, and Z or something like that?
Yeah, a lot of time. I mean, there's so many stereotypes about French people that to me are not especially true. Like the funniest one is that French people don't take showers. Yeah, you never heard about that?
I have not.
Oh, really? Like so many people tell me, yeah, French people are not clean. Like you guys don't take showers, or you don't take a lot of showers. This kind of stuff, which is not true because I shower every day and my family shower every day. I mean, so yeah, this is a funny one. There's also a cliche about French people that we are very fancy. Like everybody is very fancy and wearing heels, and as you say, as you know, I was in a host family, and my host kid told me, she told me, oh, I thought that French people were very fancy, but since I know you, I know they're not. So, I mean, that was not so nice, but it was funny because it's a cliche that it's not socially true. There's also the cliche that French people are rude or arrogant, which I don't think French people are more rude or more arrogant than anybody else in the world. So, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I have noticed, even from when I was studying in Paris at one point, is that with the group of people that I was with, it was a little bit harder because particularly I remember they were saying that I think we were asking for directions, and they said, I only want to talk to you because I was the only one in the entire group that I was with that spoke French. So is that more so like just a French thing where it's more so as we don't want to speak English in our own country, or is it more just like a specifically just a Parisian thing?
So I don't think that it's because people don't want to speak English. I think it's because we are not very good in English, like in languages in general. When I came to the US, I really realized that my English I thought my English was good because compared to other people in France, my English was pretty good. And when I arrived in the US, I was like, oh my God, my English is awful. Like I could not understand anything. And when I was trying to speak, like it was so hard. So I guess this is why we learn English at school, but we have French English teacher. So I guess maybe it's easier to learn from a native person than to another French person. So maybe that's why. But yeah, I think mainly it's not that French people don't like American people or this kind of stuff. I really think it's because we are not so able to speak English. It's very hard for us. And the language is so different than ours. So, and the pronunciation especially. So I guess that's why.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to ask about like specifically with school, because I know that even with me, with being abroad, there were certain aspects, because I was studying abroad particularly because my university was I went to a fashion school, and so a lot of people that we were basically touring around and seeing were people who were in the industry, and many people we actually had to have an interpreter for because they did not speak English. So I can and I barely can understand that because I don't know. I mean, for me, I felt like for me, I speak multiple languages. So for me, I love like learning, but I know that even when you're comparing the two, it is very different. Yeah. So like, how long do you learn? Like, do you learn that for a certain period of time up until you go to college, or is it more just like from like a young age to a certain degree? Like at what point in time do you learn it?
Okay, so I think I started to learn English like very like small, like listen, like very basic. Maybe I was like 8 or so, but we had like 1 hour like every month. Like it's very like the introduction, but really started to learn like to have more classes and to have like some English tests. We started at 11. So it's the beginning of in French we say collège, but it's not collège as for you. I don't know in English what's the word, but yeah, so 11 when we start the second school, and up until high school. And then after high school, if you want to learn English, you have to take a specialty, but it's not something mandatory anymore. So I would say we learn like maybe for 7 years if you count them together. But you're not able to really speak English after that. Like, I don't know if to explain. Like, I mean, you're able to talk a bit, but it's hard to understand the accent. And we also learn British English more than American English. So yeah, it's pretty poor, I would say. Like, I really think that English at school in France is poor, I would say.
Okay. And then since we're talking about the school system, how does like the Bach test work? Because I remember learning about it in school, but I never really understood like because I hear that there's a lot of stress around it. So like, could you explain that a little bit to me?
Okay. So I haven't done the Bach. So I did another kind of degree. I passed a degree to work with kids. So I didn't do the same, the regular thing, I would say.
Okay.
But to explain a little bit, it's very stressful for everybody who do it. And I know in English, you are supposed to have an speaking test, so you need to explain something like talking, and you have also a written test, which I think you need to read like a story or something, and then you have question about it, and you need to answer the question. And yeah, but I haven't done it, so I'm not the best person to explain.
Okay. Okay. And then, so particularly, I know that since where you're at is not, I remember, I think you explained it to me that it was not a very tourist-like area where you see all these different people coming around. So, so basically from where you are, like, what am I trying to say? So, right. So, actually, yeah. So, based on like where you are, so like you were saying, it's not it's not like a tourist area at all. So, is it just more so as like you're just seeing like your typical day-to-day people?
I'm sorry, what? I didn't get the end of your line.
Okay. So, since it's not so much of a tourist area, so is that more so like an industry that you don't really you don't really have to cater to? So, like, is it just mostly like, would you say that the demographic is mostly just mostly like younger people or families or?
Oh, okay. So it's a city. So I mean, it's like every city there is uh like families, old people, young people. Like there's a lot of young people, but it's not a touristic place in the sense that the city has not so much to offer, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I was not French, I would not come to this city because there's nothing like Paris. There is the museum and the in the south of France. There's so beautiful places and the ocean and so on. But here there is like not so much to see and to do. But it's not, it's just a normal city like Bordeaux or Marseille, or it's the same.
Okay, because I know that there's certain areas, especially where I'm from in Kentucky, it's mainly like it's kind of a small town, but then also it's sort of a college town because University of Kentucky is
Oh.
so I don't know, because a lot of people here are college students, specifically in like the downtown area, and then you kind of have like the suburban area where you have people who just are like they have families and they are retired or whatnot. A lot of people actually do retire here as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so here we have like the normal city, and of course around the city we have like the country. And for example, my grandparents have house in the country, and it's very like it's a very remote place. Like there is a lot of mountain around us, so if you go out of the city, very soon you're gonna be like driving in the forest and things like that. So I would say that maybe retired people would be more in these places. But yeah, but it's very different than in the US. For example, we don't have big university as you do, and we have university, of course, but it's nothing compared to the American one.
Okay. Yeah. So is it usually common for people, for any like people who are looking to study beyond high school to come to the US? Because I noticed that even with the school that I was at, there are a lot of international students. So is it common, like if they want to, in any case with what you were doing with au pair or with international studies, is it common for them to go elsewhere or to stay within the walls of France, so to say?
Okay, so I think most people that go in other country, it's people that are learning languages, like most of the time, or maybe economy. Do we say economy in English? I don't remember. Yeah, we do.
Or economics, I think.
Yeah, economics. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, so people that are learning like very specific things, or for the sport, for example, basketball or things like that. But most of the time, people don't move that much unless it's a specific field. Yeah, but yeah.
I see. And then I remember you were telling me that you were learning a little bit of Spanish at one point. Like, is that easier? I mean, I can only imagine, but is that easier than trying to learn English?
Yeah, it's very easier. So first of all, French and Spanish are so much closer than French and English. Like English, it's totally different. Like there's almost no words that are similar or the same. The pronunciation is totally different. So different. But Spanish is very close to French finally, because we have a lot of words in common. Also, the way we build our sentences are the same compared to English. It's different, like the word you don't put in the same place. So yeah, I definitely think that Spanish is easier to learn. And also I think since I already speak a bit of English, I guess it also helps me, like my brain, maybe it's easier now to understand or to learn a language, because when I started learning English, I studied by myself after high school, and I didn't know where to start and what to study. But now that I've been learning English for a while now, there's some stuff that I used to do with English that I do with Spanish now. So it's easier. I think I win some time.
Okay. I know, like, for me, it feels like in many cases that like learning a third language is always easier than learning a second, because at least like because Spanish is my third language. So for me, it's more so as after like learning, like I grew up speaking English and then French as well, and then I kind of built on that. But then once I got to Spanish, it was just more so as I learned it in like half the time, you know.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I probably think that the brain is getting used to, and also there is some words that are totally different from French to Spanish, for example, but they're gonna be like kind of the same with English and Spanish. So sometimes to know more languages, you can, for example, I want to start learning Italian as well, and in Italian, in Spanish for cat, you say gatto. Mm-hmm. And it's the same word in Italian, so it's gonna be easier to learn it since there's already some words that I know from Spanish. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it kind of helps.
Okay. And then, like, since you were talking about with being self-taught in so many ways, in certain ways, like, what do you feel like has been like one of the most challenging things of like learning a language on your own? I mean, I know from my experience, as I've learned multiple on my own, but just as you know, from your perspective, what aspect is a challenge for you?
So I think learning vocabulary is actually the easiest part when you're on your own, because you just translate and it's vocabulary, so it's kind of easy. Like the word, it's that word and that's it. I mean, it can mean many things, but I mean, it's easy, I would say, to learn vocabulary. But the hardest part for me is the speaking. Because obviously sometimes I do speak by myself with myself. I do little conversation with myself to practice, you know. I'm gonna talk by myself, like trying to make sentences and to make it work, but it's obviously not as easy as when you're talking with someone and you can't really correct yourself. And yeah, so I would really say the hardest part is the speaking and the listening skills. When I came to the US, obviously I could not really understand and think, and because I was practicing talking to people again and again and again and again, I end up being able to understand and to speak. But by myself, I never, I'm sorry, I was not able to do it by myself.
Okay. Yeah, I for sure agree that listening is hard because I have a tendency to translate in my head. So because I also do some work with interpretation. So my thing is, like, as an interpreter, you're supposed to just take whatever it is that you're listening to and then interpret the whole meaning of what they're trying to say, versus like I'm trying to translate everything word for word, and then it just screws me up because sometimes I'm thinking they said this one word and I know what that word is, and I spend the whole time thinking about what that word is, and then by the time I figure it out, I miss the whole thing of what they were trying to say.
I know. I know, it's the same for me. And as you say, there is some words that you know, but you don't really understand them in the sentence, and it's very hard, like, because you are translating word by word, as you said, but it's not really the way it works. Like, you know, when you try to translate something on Google Translation and the translation is terrible because it's word by word, like it's kind of the same at the beginning, it's super hard, but with the time it's easier, but it's always a bit challenging. Even with English, for me now, I'm reading in English and sometimes it's so hard to understand the meaning of the thing.
Yeah, I think for me, I had to stop using Google Translate for a while. I typically use like word reference because, you know, it gives you all the different meanings.
Yeah, I do that too.
So for me, after I started using that, because my French teacher in high school told us, don't ever use Google Translate, use word reference. So ever since then, I use it for everything. And one of the best things that I felt was good about it is that they let you translate from other languages, because not everybody, like, it's like if I was like an Italian person trying to learn Spanish, I don't want to have to learn English to learn Spanish. You know, I want to translate directly from Spanish to Italian. So I think that's so helpful for people who don't solely speak English.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's so much easier. It makes more sense to. So I don't use the website that you said, but I use it's called Reverso.
Yeah.
I don't know if you. Yeah. So to me, it's way better because it tells you like all the meaning, and you have some example of the word in the sentence, so you can really understand how it works. And also, what I do sometimes, especially with English, since I understand English, if there is a word that I don't know in English, I'm gonna type on the Google. I'm gonna type the word, and I'm gonna type meaning after. So I'm gonna have the meaning of the word, but in English, so I can really understand the meaning of the word. I don't have just the translation, because the translation can mean something, but it can mean something else, but it doesn't tell you really what's the meaning. But when you look still in English, you look for the meaning. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to put my word together. But I guess you understood, like, it's so much easier because you are really able to know what this word means, and not only the translation that will not give you so much information about this word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I remember there was I forget what it was, but there was this expression, that like a Brazilian expression, and Google Translate says it literally means a stuffed sausage, but it actually is a term that means someone who talks on and on with nonsense. So I thought,
Yeah,
like, this doesn't make any sense. You're talking about a stuffed sausage when you're really talking about someone who talks on and on about nothing.
I know.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I don't. Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, you can finish your thought.
No, I was just about to say it happened to me a lot of time with English at the beginning. I would do that, like just translate the word for the word, and it didn't mean anything. I was like, what is that? I don't have an example coming in my mind right now, but it happened to me a lot of time.
Okay, so my final question for you is just in general, like for people who genuinely want to learn French, and like what advice would you pretty much give them in terms of not just the learning of in terms of learning the language and then the culture and any cultural perspectives you think they should keep in mind?
Okay, sure. So I think the first thing, like the most important thing is like to love it. Like to me, to learn a language, but whatever language, you need to love it. You need to be into it. If you don't like it, it's gonna be harder. Like definitely not impossible, but really harder. I started learning German, for example, but I didn't like it, and I took 5 years of German, but I don't remember anything because I just didn't like the language itself. It was just not for me. So yeah, the first thing, you need to like it, and the other thing is that you need to try to spend the most as much time as you can with this language. Like for example, when I'm learning Spanish, so I'm listening to audiobooks in Spanish. I'm very into Harry Potter, and I know the world story and stuff, so I'm listening to Harry Potter in audiobooks in Spanish. So every time I'm doing the dishes or whatever, I have my headphones and I listen to it. So my brain getting used to, and more I listen to it and more I understand easily. Also, if you can try to watch French movie with French subtitles, so then you can learn vocabulary and the pronunciation and everything. Yes, to me, it's really try to spend as much time as possible listening to French and reading French. If there is a book that you like, try to order it in French so you can read it in French. And so yeah, I would say that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. So just educating us on French culture.
Sure, I liked it. Thank you so much for asking.
All right. No problem. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this month's edition of Saturday Talks, and I hope that this was informative for you. For any of you who are very much interested in French culture or just the language or learning the language, I hope that this kind of gives you a broader sense of the culture, so that you can you have the ability to see see France when you get there outside of just the norms of Paris. So not to, like I said, not to say that I have anything against Paris, because to be honest with you, I would go back any day any day if I had the chance. But I hope this gives you a broader perspective, so you can explore more parts of France as you start branching out or studying abroad or anything like that. So thanks so much for watching, and again, wanting to just basically create encouragement so that you guys are more connected to the world and the people that are in it. So I will see you on this series next month.